All right, so you remember that scene in front of a New Jersey ICE detention center ended up with the arrest of the mayor of Newark, who had absolutely no business being there. A whole melee started, and there were a couple of Congress people who were right in the middle of it. They were trying to like sneak into an opening of a gate as a bus with detainees was coming through. Law enforcement, of course, trying to protect the facility. These Congress people, by the way, brought a screaming horde of protesters as well. Let those criminal MS-13 gang member New Jersey men out. And well, one thing led to another. And this woman, Congresswoman MacGyver, she was caught on video manhandling a couple of these officers. There's been a thorough investigation, and this morning it was announced that she would be charged.
Federal prosecutors reveal that Congresswoman MacGyver faces several felony charges for allegedly assaulting law enforcement officers.
So she could be looking at possible time in jail. Border czar Tom Homan says that her actions crossed the line.
I said from day one, you cross that line, we're going to ask for prosecution. You cannot support ICE. Shame on you. You can push back against President Trump's immigration agenda. Whatever. You can't knowingly impede a law enforcement officer, ICE officer. It's a crime. And you certainly can't put hands on an ICE agent. So, she's going to have to pay the consequences for doing what she did. She broke the law.
What you gonna do when they come for you? Yeah, come on, listen. I mean, we've been watching Cops since we were like 8, right? We know that one of the things you never, ever do is put your hands on a cop. As soon as you do, the cuffs come out and you're arrested. But that's what she did. And just to remind you, if you missed the episode last week where we showed you this video, this was an exclusive to our buddy Benny Johnson. He got the body cam video, and at one critical juncture, he slowed it down. All right, now it's pretty clear what happened there, and you saw it in the slowdown. That's the Congresswoman in the red jacket. Apparently, that's her signature look. She pushed an officer from behind. There's another video, actually, that shows her with a clenched fist doing a overhead little hammer punch onto another law enforcement official, again, with their back turned. This was after the mayor of New York was arrested, and she went absolutely crazy. And now take a listen to her on the body cam here as she does the whole, don't you know who I am? You can't touch me. I'm a congressperson. And from the look of it, she wasn't getting touched until she started roughhousing the cops. By the way, even if the cops did touch her, that does not give her the legal right to touch a police officer back. Everybody knows that. But listen to her go nuts. Did you catch that? I'm going to file a complaint. You can't talk to a congressperson like that. Ma'am, this is America. We are obligated to talk to our elected officials in whatever disrespectful way we want. We fought a war for that. Thank you. So last night, Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem said after a thorough review of the video footage of Delaney Hall and a full investigation of HSI, the U.S. Attorney for the District of New Jersey has made the determination to charge Congresswoman LaMonica MacGyver for assaulting, resisting, and impeding law enforcement officers. Sure looked like that's exactly what was going on in that video. No one is above the law. If any person, regardless of political party, influence, or status, assaults a law enforcement officer, as we witnessed Congresswoman MacGyver do, we all did, didn't we? You will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. We thank our brave ICE law government enforcement officers for their service to this great nation. For those of you who think that this is just political and this is no big deal, and I mean, let me just tell you something. These ICE agents have to deal with incredibly dangerous individuals who are in this country illegally and who behave like they have nothing to lose. And when they see a congressperson pushing back and assaulting an ICE officer in this fashion, if they don't get charged, if they don't get dealt with the fullest extent of the law, that sends a message to these criminals that they can do whatever the hell they want. That's why justice is blind. That's why she carries the scales. That's why no one is above the law. I want you to remember what the Congresswoman looked like here in this video, right? What she looked like, how she behaved, what she sounded like. Remember her screaming? You don't talk to a Congresswoman like that. Let's listen again. There, you will pay, she said. Well, she's very different now that she's defending herself on cable news. Here she was this morning.
Would you have done anything differently?
No, I would not have. Once again, we showed up there to do a job, Kate. We were there for an oversight visit. We have done this before. You know, me, Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman, and Congressman Bob Menendez was just at a facility just a couple of weeks ago, not too far from this location, where we had an oversight visit, and we were a little bit delayed, but not, confronted or was in the middle of a chaos to do so. I think, number one, we have an obligation to do so. We have to show up and do our jobs. And at the end of the day, the reason why we were there is because we wanted to make sure this facility was up to par, that it was clean, that it was safe, and that the detainees there were, given due process, that they were able to use the phone, that they were able to speak to their legal representation, which we found out was not happening. But that was our reason. So despite, what Republicans are saying, about us, trying to break people out of jail, that's untrue. We were not there to do that. We were there to conduct an oversight visit, which after all of this, the chaos, Kate, they gave us a tour. We were all of this, we broke in, we assaulted people, all of these things that, Haba is saying and Republicans are saying.
Congresswoman.
Well, first of all, hey, doesn't she sound completely reasonable and normal and even-handed and charming? Yeah, that's on purpose. This is choreographed. This is scripted, and she's been told, don't come off like a lunatic, because, boy, she seems a lot different than how she was there in front of the detention facility. I don't know any Republicans who's making the claim that they were there to break criminals out of jail. Somebody may be making that claim. I didn't see it. What I can tell you, though, is that when you've got a detention facility with hardened criminals and gang members, and they're there to be processed, prosecuted, and deported, if you've got chaos there, the law enforcement have to act as though they are protecting the facility from a break. That's the whole point of having armed law enforcement protecting a detention facility like this. Chaos, distractions, craziness, that's not good for an orderly atmosphere and culture at a jail. Also, there's a tell inside the statement that she put out before she went on her media blitz. Earlier this month, I joined my colleagues to inspect the treatment of ICE detainees at Delaney Hall in my district. We were fulfilling our lawful oversight responsibility as members of Congress have done many times before. Not like that, ma'am. Make an appointment. You let them know you're coming. You go in the front door, not through a fenced, protected gate at a parking lot when a bus is coming through with detainees. And our visit should have been peaceful and short. Instead, here is the tell. This is what her defense is going to be. ICE agents created an unnecessary and unsafe confrontation when they chose to arrest Mayor Baraka. So all the melee that you saw, all the craziness, all of the pushing, all of the shoving, she's going to claim that it was because her pal, the mayor of Newark, got arrested. And we're to believe that law enforcement agents just willy-nilly, out of the blue, decided that they would cause trouble by arresting the mayor of Newark, and that nothing at all led up to that. That seems to be the claim here. Let's see her finish her very measured, very controlled, very scripted, very choreographed media hit this morning.
You are now facing a federal charge, though. Are you afraid of what's going to transpire now?
I mean, it's super unfortunate, Kate, that we have come to this point, in America, that this is what we see happening to leaders who are trying to do their jobs. Rather, it's the mayor of the largest city, rather it's a judge. We've seen this administration come after and attack, leaders for doing their jobs. It's political intimidation, and I will not be intimidated. I expect to continue to do my job.
Right. She was just doing her job. That's her job, what you saw there. By the way, hey, I'm going to be on your show tomorrow morning. What color are you wearing? Taupe? Oh, cool. I'll wear taupe too. We'll be twinsies on camera. Yay. What are the odds? What are the odds? Donald Trump this morning on his way to Capitol Hill to rally support for his big, beautiful bill was asked about the pending arrest of this Congresswoman.
The president can say that your DOJ is weaponizing with the arrest of a congresswoman, Democratic congresswoman.
Oh, give me a break. Did you see her? She was out of control.
Did you address
Those days are over. The days of woke. No, I didn't. The days of woke are over. That woman, I have no idea who she is. That woman was out of control. She was shoving federal agents. She was out of control. The days of that crap are over in this country. We're going to have law and order.
The days of that crap are over. She was out of control. One thing about Trump is that he always tells it like it is. So FAFO, right? She effed A over in front of the detention center and started messing with law enforcement officials. Today, she's effing O. Now, you'll remember that Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries was talking a big game the other day, sort of threatening the U.S. Attorney, Alina Habba, and Kristi Noem, the Homeland Security Secretary, threatening them not to do exactly what they did. You remember what Hakeem said?
Your statement the other day after there was this incident in Newark, you said they better not touch our members.
Correct.
What happens if they were to go and arrest these members, or if they would try to sanction them here in the House of Representatives?
They'll find out.
What would you do?
They'll find out.
Recourse? But doesn't that broach a?
They'll find out.
Doesn't that go across?
That's a red line.
What's the red line though? I know we have this.
It's a red line. It's very clear.
So that's a red line. They'll find out. That seems to be the talking point here that was leading up to this. In fact, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez posted her own video basically saying the same thing. Don't FA or you'll FO. Oh, you'll find out. You'll find out. Of course, I don't quite see what they can do. This is like Joe Biden warning Iran, to not support terrorism in the Middle East. Do you have a message for them? Don't what, sir? I'm sorry, I can only do one syllable at a time. Don't. Of course, they did, and then nothing happened. And that's pretty much as shallow as this threat is. What's Hakeem Jeffries going to do? He literally has no real power in the House of Representatives, but he thinks that he's going to talk a big game. They'll find out. They'll find out. Well, it's been about 12 hours now. We haven't seen anything. Representative Eric Swalwell, he picked up the exact same talking point. A red line has been crossed. Trump is prosecuting his political enemies in Congress. She may be a political enemy of Donald Trump. Donald Trump claims he has no idea who she is, but let's say she is a political enemy. She's not being prosecuted because she's a political enemy. She may be a political enemy, but that's not the reason for the prosecution. She's being prosecuted because she manhandled a cop. And by the way, she manhandled the cop because she has decided that Donald Trump is her political enemy. That's the entire reason they did this. Where were all the demonstrations in front of detention facilities during the Biden administration when they were overflowing with the hordes of people that were allowed to come here illegally? What about the 300,000 missing children who came here illegally and then were handed over to God knows who or God knows what to do God knows what? And nobody protested. None of these Congress people ever did. Well, because they weren't a political enemy, you see. So the reason they were there was because they've decided Trump's their political enemy. Trump didn't make this woman push a cop. Trump didn't make this woman seemingly assault and resist these police officers. That's not, you can't put that on Trump. And now the Justice Department is doing what the Justice Department's supposed to do. Send a message to all criminals and all people in this country that no one is above the law. I've heard that somewhere before, right? Where have I heard that before? That's right. The same guy. They love saying no one's above the law when it's someone like Donald Trump who is facing what they like to call justice. Of course, we all know what those charges were. But hey, no one is above the law, including an insane congresswoman from New Jersey. Here's Swalwell this morning.
In jail for an indefinite amount of time, we can't trust them. So we have to do our oversight duties. And she was in the right to go and do that. And I promise you, there's going to be more unnoticed visits by my colleagues where they show up and they better be let in.
You pointed
Again, talking a really big game. They better be let in. We've got to do this. We have no choice but to show up unannounced. Well, Representative Swalwell, let me just remind you that if you show up unannounced and you cause a fracas and you cause a melee and you bring a bunch of screaming protesters with you and you try to push through a gate that is being protected by law enforcement and you come in contact with those law enforcement officers, well, Congressman, it's the Swalwell standard, as it were. No one's above the law. Congressman Chris Murphy, who has also grown a beard, just like Eric Swalwell and just like Pete Buttigieg, because rugged, he said this morning that this is a really big deal. I watched the tape. This is a political arrest, pure and simple, an attempt to punish members of Congress for doing oversight of Trump's illegality. He's watched the tape. Well, Congressman, so have we. And we're going to watch it again. Watch the woman in red. Boom, boom, boom. I don't think Chris Murphy has really watched the tape, at least not that tape. Because if he had watched that tape, he would have seen exactly what everyone with their own plain eyes can see. That congresswoman impeded, resisted, and assaulted a police officer. You may not think it's a big deal, but when you put your hands on a cop, when you push a cop, that's assault. And you can't do that to a cop. So Senator Murphy says he watched the tape. So did we. And we'll let you decide. And while we're at it, let's take a look at this tape one more time, just to remind ourselves of what's at stake here.
No one is above the law.
Nobody's above the law.
No person is above the law.
No one 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 is above the law.
You're not above the law. You're not an elite. You're not untouchable. And so it's nice to see that the rule of law has returned.
Hey, it was Swalwell again. That guy, he just finds a way in front of a camera to say all the best things that we can hold against him later. But they're right. No one is above the law. No one ever disputed that notion. The problem is that we were trying to argue that nobody was beneath the law, the way they were prosecuting and in many cases persecuting their political enemies. No one is above the law. We've all looked at the tape. And now, as I said at the top of this segment, that congresswoman definitely effed A. And now she's F&O.